low capacity in many areas. So understanding that changed my relationship with her, though she never changed because I had perspective change. And with my dad, this a very similar thing. So the family system in which I grew up in, and which I was a part of later in life, seemed like two completely different systems. Because I was young and I didn't know anything. I was just kind of living life and experiencing and all that. And so, you know what I mean? So, but when we can step back, for my mom, I actually interviewed her. And for my dad, I actually talked to his mom, Maya, for like 2 hours. And she shared all this information. So that's how I gained perspective. And with both of them, I mean, my father, I couldn't stand him. I didn't never want to be around him. Just didn't want to be around. He'd come home from work and I'd go down to my room and dinner time, come up for dinner, eat, quiet, go back to, no. But then when I learned all these things about him, I was like, golly, I can't imagine the life that he had. And all of a sudden I was feeling with him instead of just being angry at him because he wasn't giving me what I needed. Now I knew that he couldn't. And I said, that's okay, I get it now. But I had to learn that. So, yeah, family systems, they have commonness in terms of dynamics, and they have so much variance in terms of, because of the individuals who compose the system. Yeah.
That's short. I was just gonna say, with a trauma-informed approach, and when you're seeing people through those lenses, I've heard your question changes from what's wrong with you to what happened to you.
Exactly. That's the shift. That's the shift. And when we're more interested in what happened instead of just saying what's wrong with you, because what's wrong with you has everything to do with me. What's wrong with you? Why are you being and treating me in such a, but when I say, what happened? Now it's all about them. Christianity at its finest. Tell me.
Father, I'm going to jump in with a question too. You've been in a lot of different church communities. You know, our community here at Holy Resurrection is fairly young, growing. We're figuring out what that relationships look like with each other, you know, growing new relationships. Just anything that you could offer kind of in this context of family systems, just for a new community that's trying to figure out how it relates with each other, how it handles different people, just kind of contextualize within a church community.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, according to Dr. Murray Bowen, who's the sort of grandfather of family systems theory, although systems theory has been around a lot longer, and it's in the world of chemistry and the universe, and I mean, you know, it's everywhere. But the key to a system functioning in a healthier way is what he calls differentiation. So differentiation has to do with the amount of being enmeshed with someone in an emotional sort of way, or being less enmeshed and more differentiated. So he said through his studies that, for example, the more anxiety that one experiences in life, the less differentiated they are. Mm-hmm. As he worked to help them to become more differentiated, in a commensurate way, anxiety came down. An enmeshed person is going to be anxious, they're going to be fearful, they're going to try to control. The other person sets them off. Everything is externalized in terms of my happiness and my well-being and my ability to regulate. It's all dependent on everybody or the person or whoever's out there. That if they're good to me and things are, then I'm good. It's all this stuff. But a person who, as they grow to become more differentiated, then they're able to get unenmeshed and actually love more and love in a healthy way. Because people, when you talk about being enmeshed and they're worried about how someone's feeling and what they said and it really upset me, and then you know, when they don't talk to me, I get really angry, and all this sort of stuff. This is all emotional enmeshment. But I said, when we talk about differentiation, the first thing that comes to our mind was, well, it just sounds like you don't care. And I said, and that's working? That form of caring actually is working for you? Why are you here then? I said, no, that's not it. I said, think about Christ, the most highly differentiated human being ever to walk the earth. Think about all the things that were said about him, said to him, how he was treated, all these things. And he remained unmoved in terms of an emotional responsiveness, in terms of, you know, why are they saying that? Why are they calling me John? Why are they saying, you know, why are they saying the devil? Why do they think that I'm doing? He wasn't like that. That's how we would be. You know what they said? Do you know what you're saying? Yeah, that's how we are. Right? But Christ, you know, he said, for example, bless those who curse you. The heck, I'm going to bless them. They just, you know, talked about it behind the back, and you know, that's that sort of enmeshment sort of thing. So he would say that the more we can become differentiated, and to me that theologically means the more we become more our true self in Christ, right? Then the healthier the relationships I have will be around me. And so if you think about it in a church, and there's a ton of there's good literature out there on terms of family systems theory within the churches. Generation to Generation is one of them. What's his name? Ron Richardson has done quite a bit in the area of church community in terms of family systems theory and how it functions, how it operates, and how you can increase you know, relational activity through differentiation and eliminating triangles, all these 8 concepts of Bowen. But I think that the more that each of you as an individual begins to, it's all the things I was talking about in the first and the second talk here. I had to be the one to inquire to find out how I could see my parents differently so that I could actually be different in relationship to them in a much more healthy way. All right, that's what everybody has to do here. It's just looking within yourself. Lord, help me to see and love all the people in my parish the way you see them and love me. Wherever I'm blocked by things, help me, you know, reveal those things to me, heal me from, help me to understand, you know, this person. Grant me to have more compassion, more love, more empathy. Fill me with kindness and joy. All of that, so that I can now spread that to everybody around. When relationships, whether it's a couple or a family or communities, are really focusing on those things, then their interactions are going to reflect that growth and change. You know, but if it's always about me and my opinion, what I think, and well, what is that? Why that person hasn't even been here for 4 weeks? Why are they speaking up? And I don't know. It's just all kind of crazy stuff we say and we think, and then what we feel in the confines of our own home or on our drive home. You know, it's just like, why? You know, it's like, oh my Lord. You know, there's specks out there they're all looking at and trying to grab and manipulate, change, and it's just like, how? I mean, and the way that we're trying to find peace in all of it is just maddening, because it'll never happen that way. Not by talking about it, being angry about it, or having a grudge against someone, or quiet. Just be at peace for a moment and prayerful, and just speak to Christ, your Lord. Help me, Lord, on this, and help our parish to grow so that we as a community of believers can glorify your name and bring more people to their salvation. We want to be a light and a fragrance in this city, in this place, that whoever comes in here, it's palpable for them.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned, going back a little bit, about how kind of our reliance on screens and our use of screens in our modern world is contributing to this feeling of disconnectedness. But I think in my mind that begs the question of, like, are we bad for using Zoom? Are we bad for using FaceTime? Are we bad for connecting over the internet? Is that ruining our lives? Is that a bad thing? Is it a bad tool?
Well, you threw in 2 or 3 things, and I'm trying to put them together right now. I think part of it is, maybe we could go back to where our treasures are, that is where our heart is. So our treasures aren't necessarily our bank accounts. It really speaks to what am I giving, how am I a steward of my time? What am I giving my time to at this moment, and for how long? I mean, these phones are wonderful. They can show you how much screen time you've been using, right? And typically we really undervaluate that. We're like, I think I've been on it like 45 minutes today, and it's more like 3.5 hours. That could be a defense mechanism, maybe something new, I don't know. But for me, it's not as much about good or bad. I look at it as God is giving me a certain amount of time in this life, and I don't know what that is. I may not make it up to Portland tomorrow. This could be my last day. I don't know that. So this is why the fathers say that we have to keep that. Yaron Dafrem of blessed memory said, live as though you're going to live forever, but be prepared to die tomorrow. So it's more a question of, is this the best way for me to spend the time right now? And I can answer that, well, is it productive to my life in Christ? Is it somehow adding to my relationship with God? Is it something that's beneficial to my soul? That to me is the question, not whether it's good or bad, because I think that's, I wouldn't say it's bad, I would just say, yeah, this is not a good use of my time. And I spend a lot of time doing it. Now, imagine if you spent, I don't know, 5 hours over 7 days, and that was just on whatever, just looking news, whatever, maybe long, maybe I don't know. And then, if all that was taken away and you just had time just to sit and to read or to pray or to work with your hands or to do a common project or to visit someone and do all of these things that are deeply connecting you with your Lord, which time is better? Remember the quote I gave you at the marriage retreat? David Cassidy. You guys remember David Cassidy? He was an actor, singer way back, the Partridge Family, all this stuff. I've mentioned this many times. But on his deathbed, he said to his daughter, so much wasted time. I've wasted so much time, and my time is done. I can't get it back. That resonated with me big time. So that's my answer to you. Yeah.
We're gonna go right behind you real quick, sorry.
I was just gonna
Next.
ask, because you're talking about like a lot of the spiritual life is fought in the mind, which seems kind of weird at first, but then as I don't think there's the scripture as far as like bringing all thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ, so that makes sense. But then bring that, say, even to like, the noetic life, like how do we, capture all those thoughts and then like enter into the noetic life, especially being in the world but not of it?
Well, we don't want to capture the thoughts, we want to repel them. The fathers say that every sin begins as a thought. So we have to, we grow and learn through our confessions and our spiritual guidance with our spiritual fathers and the readings and so forth, what thoughts to not allow to come in, okay? And as every sin begins as a thought, then this is where our work is in a sense. But I'll tell you something else too. St. Porphyrios talked about the struggle of the spiritual life and fighting against the passions and this sort of kind of warrior approach and battle and all these sort of things. And he said for him, he says, I think I have found a better way to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, right? He says, it has not worked for me to fight against the passions, to look at it as fighting against the passion. I need to fight the passions. I need to do this and I need to do that and I got to do more of this, do that. He says, I was never able to make progress really that way. And then he said, what I feel is a better path is, instead of focusing on fighting against, I'm now focusing on increasing my love for God. And that's where his prayer is. That's where his life was, in that instance. So he's saying, Lord, help me to love you with all my being and to love others as myself. Grant me to forgive all people. Grant me more. He was praying for the virtues, but constantly he was asking God to fill him with his divine love so that he could love him in return as he ought unto all people. He said, it was more the acquisition and the growth in the love of Christ. He says, what happened is that the battles became less and weaker and started to disappear. He says, you can stand here and go toe to toe and fight the passions, He says, but it's almost like he's saying good luck. But then when he comes here and he's really focusing on just, Lord, I'm exhausted. I can't, but all I want is just to give my entire heart to you. And I just want my heart to become so large, full of love, so I can love you and others. Then, he's a saint who couldn't fast. Right? He had all sorts of illnesses. He couldn't even stay on the Holy Mountain. He had to go live in Athens. Couldn't fast. He couldn't do a lot of things physically because he was limited because of these things. So this is sort of, I think this is why you have the title, Wounded by Love. He allowed himself to be wounded by love, the love of God, and that's what allowed him to grow into becoming Christ-like. So we had to be, I think, that to me was a shift. That was a big shift, because a lot of things I read was all about, fighting, combating, and weapons, and, we can do all that stuff, but not think of it in those terms, and that worked for him, and it works for me too, for sure. I don't know, maybe others just, they like the idea.
Thank goodness for a lot of different saints.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yes, Tim.
Oh, sorry, we're gonna go here and then.
Oh, okay, we got,
Sure.
yeah.
I just wanted to talk to the sweet lady.
That's probably the last question, then we'll take a break.
This is just, I was hoping you'd expand a little bit on learning about your parents. And, as I'm getting older than you, and losing people, but I'm reflecting back on the love that people have shown me over the years. And I can't talk a lot about that because I'm going to get weepy if I do.
That's a good thing to reflect on. If you're going to reflect on anything, reflect on that.
It just,
Reflect on that.
yeah.
I think it would become a temptation to think about anything other than the good things, the blessings, which then inspire you to show thanksgiving and gratitude, which invites grace. Yeah, those are the things we should think of. And if anything was wrong, Lord, forgive them. The prayer of Christ on the cross, you say, Lord, and forgive my parents, for they know not what they did in many instances. They were wounded themselves. They didn't know. Whatever they sinned, however they sinned against me or against each other, Lord, forgive them, all of those things. They didn't know any better. They were wounded themselves. We're begging God just to overlook all of that. That's the prayer of Christ. That's what we say.
Well, they did so much for me and teachers and others.
Yeah. We honor people by that. Even if in our lifetime we thought they were dishonorable. It's a mature spiritual step to be able to honor those who before we may have dishonored for whatever reasons. But it shows that we have, that tenderness is growing in our heart and forgiveness.